After my wife went bankrupt, our family moved into a cramped rental house. To make ends meet, I worked 10 part-time jobs a day. The day before our daughter's birthday, she was still out with me in the bitter wind delivering food. Her small, oval face was flushed red from the cold. But after every successful delivery, she would ask me in her sweet, childish voice, "Daddy, have we earned enough money to rent a car and take Mommy to see the sea?" Her birthday wish this year was to take her mother to eat cake at her favorite seaside spot. So, we planned to rent a car that day and surprise my wife, keeping it a secret from her. That evening, luck was on my side, and I got a large order from a wealthy neighborhood. After delivering the expensive cake to its destination, I was shocked to find the person opening the door was my wife's younger brother. And inside, my wife, dressed in a high couture gown worth tens of thousands, was holding her old flame son and raising her glass high. "Welcome everyone to my godson's birthday banquet." Only then did I realize she had been pretending to be poor, deceiving me for 10 long years. The moment Jang Renu took the cake, our eyes met, and an indescribable awkwardness filled the air. "Brother-in-law, we were also invited." Before he could finish, I gripped my daughter's small hand tightly and turned away decisively. I opened my phone and pulled up the cake shop's page. The number staring back at me made my heart clench. The custom cake they had ordered cost a staggering 5-figure sum. My daughter looked up at me, her eyes filled with innocence and confusion. "Daddy, why is Mommy here? Did Mommy buy this cake?" With her birthday just tomorrow, anticipation was written all over her face. Gazing into her clear eyes, an uncontrollable wave of bitterness washed over me. I knew without a doubt that the cake was theirs. Janti and Ruer had come from a prominent family. We were originally from 2 different worlds. However, fate played its hand. After her family went bankrupt, her old flame abandoned her and went abroad. Hit by the double blow of family ruin and romantic rejection, she chose me to ensure she wouldn't have to live a hard life. I worked 10 jobs a day, but I never imagined she could feign poverty before our very eyes for a decade. Looking at the layers of worn-out clothes on my daughter, my eyes instantly stung. Jang Tingwei I always used the excuse of subsidizing her younger brother-in-law, reluctant to buy our daughter even an extra winter uniform for kindergarten. Because of this, our daughter was often mocked by other children at school. Seeing my prolonged silence, my daughter seemed to understand something and pretended not to like the cake. "I don't like that cake. I just want a cheap one." Before she could finish, she started to sob, tears already streaming down her flushed cheeks. I patted her head, lifted her onto the motorbike, and we hastily departed. If only my daughter didn't have to be so understanding. Back home, I calculated the day's earnings, feeling a slight sense of relief. It wasn't bad. Tomorrow, I could take my daughter to buy a cake she liked. My daughter, who had been sulking, heard the door open and rushed forward to hug Jang Ting. But Jang Tingru completely ignored her, walking straight to the bathroom to wash up and get ready for bed. A flicker of disappointment and awkwardness crossed my daughter's face. Still, she mustered her courage and asked timidly, "Mommy, can you come with us to pick out a cake tomorrow?" The sound of running water in the bathroom stopped abruptly, replaced by her cold reply, "We'll buy it in a couple of days." Normally, when refused, my daughter would fall silent, being the sensible child she was. But tomorrow was her birthday. She couldn't believe her mother would forget. She tried her best to remind her. "But we can go pick one out together tomorrow. Today, Daddy and I." Her words trailed off. Her heart filled with confusion and hurt. How could Mommy forget her birthday? Mommy remembered other children's birthdays, remembered to buy cakes for them. Why did she forget only hers? My daughter desperately tried to control her emotions, not finishing her sentence. But Jang Tingray snapped at her. "Why are you so insistent on buying a cake?" Jang Tingray turned and saw her daughter, tears now streaming uncontrollably. She relented. My daughter ran happily towards me, buried her face in my chest, and secretly wiped away her tears. She whispered in my ear, "Tomorrow, Mommy and I will go get the cake, and Daddy, you go rent the car." But by the next day, Jang Tingray seemed to have forgotten all about it. She left early in the morning and hadn't returned for half the day. I comforted our daughter, assuring her that her mother would buy the cake for her. Then I headed straight for the car rental agency. Stepping into the agency's underground garage, my gaze was instantly captured by a particular car. It was identical to the one Jang Ruer had been in the night before. I froze for a moment, then mustered the courage to point at the car and asked the owner roughly how much would it cost to rent this model for a day. The owner glanced over and quickly waved his hands dismissively. "Mr. Chun, that car belongs to some boss who's just parking it here temporarily. Our agency doesn't have such high-end vehicles." I walked closer to the car, the owner following closely behind me, just wanting a rough estimate. Before the words left my mouth, the car suddenly began to shake violently. I realized I might have stumbled upon someone's private moment, and my face burned with embarrassment. Just as I was about to pull the owner away, I recognized the entwined figures through the car window. It was my wife of 10 years, Jang Ting Ruer, and her old flame, Jang Sharon. Shame and anger washed over me like a tide, and I could barely breathe. I hastily told the owner, "Never mind a rental." I clenched my fists and fled the garage. Back home, our daughter's expectant gaze felt like a knife piercing my heart. I gritted my teeth and dialed the divorce lawyer. Hearing our conversation, my daughter asked in panic, "Daddy, are you going to separate from Mommy?" Though young, she had already grasped from my phone call that I intended to leave. I desperately suppressed my emotions. I knelt down and asked her, "If we separate, who would you choose?" The moment I asked, I regretted it. I felt too cruel. Even if she was mature for her age, I shouldn't have been so direct. Hearing the question, she pressed her lips together lightly, trying to appear calm, but her trembling voice betrayed her. "Daddy, don't you want me anymore?" "I don't want the cake, and I don't want you to rent the car either." My daughter was always so sensible it broke my heart. Faced with this situation, her first reaction was actually to think she was the reason I wanted to separate from Jang Ting Rue. I gently held her in my arms and said with difficulty, "It's not your fault. But if you go with Mom, perhaps things will be better for you than with Dad." Hearing this, she could no longer hold back her emotions and began to sob softly in my arms. "No, give Mom another chance, okay?" I knew she was still hoping her mother would bring the cake home and that we could reconcile. I didn't want to spoil her mood again on her birthday, so I nodded in agreement. When evening came, Jang Ting Rue returned home, but she only carried a set of clothes. She hadn't brought the cake our daughter wanted. Not only had she completely forgotten about it, but she also casually assigned me a task for the next day. "Deliver this set of clothes to Wanju Building tomorrow. The delivery fee someone's paying isn't small." I picked up the clothes. The style was clearly hers. I finally snapped, my voice so loud it startled even me. "You were out all day, and this is all you brought back?" She looked utterly bewildered, as if my anger was completely unprovoked. "Are you crazy? Why are you yelling at me like that? I found you a gig, and now I'm wrong." I smiled bitterly, tears almost welling up. "What about our daughter's cake?" A flash of panic crossed Jang Ting Ruer's face before she walked into the bathroom and started washing her hands, using anger to mask the fact she'd forgotten. "Why are you so hung up on this cake? Can't we just buy it in a few days?" Our daughter, hearing us argue, suddenly rushed out of her room, eyes brimming with tears. "Daddy, Mommy, don't fight. I don't want this birthday anymore." Jang Ting Rue froze on the spot upon hearing her daughter's words. She finally realized her daughter's insistence on cake these past 2 days was because today was her birthday. A flicker of panic crossed her face and she quickly comforted her daughter, promising to buy her a cake tomorrow without fail to properly make up for her birthday. Seeing her daughter happily embrace her, I didn't press the issue further. The next day, after delivering the clothes to the Wanju Building as promised, the boss who gives me part-time jobs suddenly sent a message. "A client specifically requested you to wash his car, saying, 'You're meticulous and do good work.'" I felt a surge of gratitude. This boss had always helped me out when I needed it most. He was a decent man, too. Seeing I was hardworking, he was willing to recommend me for any job. Following the location the boss provided, I arrived at the parking spot and took out my tools, ready to wash the car. Unexpectedly, at that moment, Jang Ting Rue and her unforgettable past love, Jang Shuran, got out of the car. Jang Tingwee's expression suddenly showed a trace of awkwardness as she stood there radiant and glamorous beside Jang Shuran while I in my ragged clothes drenched in sweat looked utterly out of place. Yet I didn't feel ashamed. Instead, I felt a touch of joy because I saw a very beautiful cake resting on the back seat of the car. Jang Sharon glanced at me and stated his requirements for washing the car. "My car's paint is expensive. Be as careful as possible when you wash it." I bowed repeatedly in agreement and began taking out my tools, preparing to start washing from the front. Just then, Jang Tingray stopped me, gazing tenderly at Jang Shuran. "I gave him his car before I went bankrupt. He treasures it, so don't scratch or bump it." Hearing this, Jang Shuran smiled faintly and tightened his arm around her waist. I nodded solemnly, but noticed an inexplicable disdain in Jang Shuran's eyes as he looked at me. He clearly knew who I was and had deliberately summoned me here simply to humiliate me. Watching them looking so well-matched, I felt utterly defeated. I opened the car door to clean the interior, but I accidentally sprayed a little cleaning fluid onto the cake box. Seeing this, Jang Ting Rue flew into a rage, pointing at my face and unleashing a torrent of abuse. "Are you insane? Don't you know this is food? If it weren't for the child, I would have left you long ago. Hearing her berate me, Jiang Shuran dragged me straight out of the car and threw me onto the ground. You can't even handle this simple task. Get lost. Don't let me see you again. Passers-by cast pitying glances my way, but I paid them no mind, brushing the dust off myself. I dragged my weary body home. Seeing my condition, my daughter understood I had been bullied outside. She gently stroked the cuts on my cheek with her soft little hands, repeatedly asking if it hurt. Following her touch, I realized I had several cuts on my face. But I ignored the pain, eager to share the good news with her. Mommy bought you a super beautiful cake. Daddy saw it today. But my daughter wasn't concerned about the cake. She looked at me worriedly. Daddy, did someone bully you? You're bleeding. I scratched my head, forcing back the stinging tears, and comforted her with a foolish grin. I just fell off my bike on the way back. It's nothing. My daughter immediately got up, fetched some bandages, and carefully applied them to my cuts. As she applied them, she blew gently, saying, "Blow, blow, make the hurt fly away." Suddenly, the door creaked open. Jiang Tingrui was back. I excitedly craned my neck to look, and my daughter rubbed her hands together gleefully, anticipating the cake she longed for. Jiang Tingrui walked through the door empty-handed. My daughter and I stood frozen, our hearts sinking with disappointment. I turned to look at my daughter and saw her mouth twist slightly. The hope in her eyes had turned to disappointment, but she seemed accustomed to it. Not as upset as she had been on her actual birthday. Seeing her like this, my heart felt like a knife twisting inside. She might have completely lost faith in her mother. Furious, I assumed Jiang Tingrui had simply forgotten the cake in the car. Just as I was about to demand an explanation, she pulled me into the bathroom. Let me see if you're hurt. It looked like you landed right on your face today. She reached out, intending to peel off the bandage her daughter had put on me. I pushed her hand away and asked coldly, "Where's the cake?" The cake? I couldn't stop myself from shouting at her. The cake you promised our daughter you'd buy her today. I saw it in the car. Only then did she realize she had broken her promise again. Utterly disappointed, I walked straight into the kitchen to start making dinner. During the meal, the whole family ate in silence. She tried to curry favor, placing food onto my plate and our daughter's. I did buy the cake, but something came up on the way. I'll get you another one tomorrow. Our daughter immediately brightened up, asking tentatively. I happen to have plans with a few friends tomorrow. Could they come over to our house to celebrate my birthday? Jiang Tingrui stared absently at our daughter's cautious demeanor, thinking of how carefree other children were. A pang of bitterness rose in her heart. How had she raised her own daughter to be so timid? A wave of guilt washed over her. She stroked our daughter's head. Invite them all. Happily, our daughter took me out to buy fruit and snacks. She even paid with the allowance money she had saved up bit by bit. The next day, she pulled me out of bed early to welcome her friends. Before long, many parents arrived with their children. Everyone mingled harmoniously, but the cake Jiang Tingrui had promised never arrived. Our daughter started to get anxious, fiddling nervously with her hands. My breathing grew shallow. I silently prayed that Jiang Tingrui wouldn't let our daughter down again. By the time everyone had eaten their fill and was ready to wish our daughter a happy birthday, Jiang Tingrui still hadn't answered my calls. Seeing the embarrassed, pleading look in my daughter's eyes, I asked another parent to help lead the birthday celebration while I went straight to Jiang Sharon's house to find her. Before I even reached the gate, I saw her from afar. Jiang Tingrui, strolling with her godson, cradled lovingly in her arms. Her face was filled with such affection, as if that child were her own flesh and blood. I couldn't help but think of our daughter, whose own mother didn't even care about her belated birthday celebration. I was just about to go over and confront her. Unexpectedly, Jiang Sharon appeared with security guards and had me forcibly removed from the residential complex. He looked down his nose at me contemptuously, ordering the guards to dump me at the entrance like trash. Get Jiang Tingrui out here. What's happening today is very important. Jiang Shuran walked straight up and punched me, saying smugly, "What could possibly be important in that broken home of yours? Tingrui and Tong Tong's bond is growing stronger. Don't disturb them." Growing stronger? What a joke. Suddenly, I remembered our daughter neglected back at home. I ran back home like a madman. Our daughter's birthday song was already missing her mother's voice. It couldn't lack mine as well. Paying no mind to the sweat soaking through my clothes, I rushed home only to be met with a scene that filled me with immense guilt. My daughter, who should have been happy, was crying with her head bowed. The other children were asking unhappily, "Are you a liar? Your family can't even afford a cake." Seeing me arrive, the parents quickly apologized and left one after another with their children. My daughter sobbed in my arms. She understood. Jiang Ting Rui had broken her promise yet again. Curled up small in my embrace, she whispered weakly, "Daddy, I don't want mommy anymore." I instructed my lawyer to handle the divorce proceedings. And that very night, I took our daughter and boarded a plane to another city. Jiang Tingray walked along the street, browsing cake shops one by one, but felt that the ready-made styles lacked the sophisticated elegance of a custom order. After a moment's hesitation, she called Jiang Sharon. "Could your friend's custom cake shop take an order?" Within 2 hours, she thought long and hard before setting this time frame. It should be enough time to pick up the cake and go straight home to surprise them. There's a hint of panic in Jiang Ting Rui's voice. She couldn't break her promise this time. After all, our daughter had already invited many little friends over to celebrate. Jiang Shuran paused for a second, then said nonchalantly, "Sure, why don't you come over to my place for dinner first? Tong Tong said he misses you. Finish eating and the cake can be conveniently delivered right here." Hearing this, the worry weighing on Jiang Ting Rui's heart finally lifted. After agreeing, she quickly picked out a birthday gift for our daughter and hurried to Jiang Sharon's home. From a distance, she saw Tong Tong and Jiang Sharon waiting at the door to greet her. The moment Tong Tong spotted the gift in her hand, he jumped up excitedly. "Godmother bought me another designer toy figurine. You always guess exactly what I like." Tong Tong grinned so widely his eyes narrowed into slits. Just as Jiang Ting Ruer was about to explain it was for our daughter, Jiang Shuran had already taken the gift. "The whole wall is covered with the designer toys he bought him. Tong Tong treasures them deeply." Jiang Tingray stared at the wall full of gifts. Momentarily lost in thought, she suddenly realized she seemed to have never bought our daughter any gifts, nor did she even know what her daughter liked. At the dinner table, Jiang Tingrui was preoccupied, constantly glancing down at the time. As soon as the cake arrived, she immediately stood up, ready to leave. Seeing this, Jiang Shuran promptly said to Tong Tong, "Have Godmother help you with your craft for a bit." Tong Tong instantly understood, grabbing Jiang Tingrui's hand and looking at her with pleading eyes. "Godmother, the teacher wants me and Mom to do crafts together. Can you teach me first, please?" Jiang Tingrui was momentarily flustered, only managing to gently stroke his head and coax him softly. "Godmother will come over tomorrow to do it with you. I have something important today." Tong Tong's eyes instantly turned red and he clung tightly to her hand, refusing to let go. Jiang Tingrui couldn't bear to refuse him outright and cast a pleading look towards Jiang Shuran, but he merely offered a helpless shrug. Jiang Tingrui sighed, reaching for her phone to send me a message, but her phone was gone. She searched frantically, only to look up and see Jiang Shuran watching her nonchalantly. Their eyes met and understanding dawned on her. She reached directly into Jiang Shuran's bag and pulled out her phone. She shook off Tong Tong's hand, grabbed the cake, and walked out. Jiang Tingrui had always poured her heart into caring for Tong Tong, giving him motherly love, companionship, and even money. Yet, Jiang Shuran and Tong Tong never felt it was enough. They always wanted more. Meanwhile, her own daughter was often neglected by her. Even when our daughter needed something, if it wasn't met, she wouldn't ask again, never making a fuss or causing trouble. Only at this moment did Jiang Tingru realize how selfish she had been. She had given all her love to others, yet expected her own child not to be demanding. A knot of frustration tightened in her chest. She unlocked her phone, intending to call us. However, what greeted her eyes were numerous missed calls and a divorce agreement sent by my lawyer. For the first time, the words divorce agreement struck her as incredibly jarring. A sudden, ominous feeling washed over her. After getting out of the car, she was in such a panic that she almost forgot the cake. She looked up at her darkened home and asked the security guard with a trembling voice, "Weren't they celebrating a birthday in that apartment? Why are the lights off?" The security guard glanced at the cake in her hand, speechless. Everyone left because his family couldn't even afford a cake. Before Jiang Tingru could speak, the guard recognized her. "You're the mother from that family, aren't you? Dressed like this, I almost didn't recognize you." The guard looked at Jiang Tingruer with a hint of sympathy in his voice. "Seeing you like this, rent shouldn't be an issue, right? So why are the child and her father moving out in the dead of winter?" Jiang Tingrui felt a sudden wave of suffocation. She finally understood. This time they were truly disappointed in her. She had meant to tell them the truth. But the moment Jiang Shuran returned, she had been swept away by the love she had never received before. She had promised Jiang Shuran that even if she married, her heart would always belong to him. Even after Jiang Shuran married someone else due to his family's declining fortunes, she could never let go. For 10 years, she had forced me to work myself to the bone to subsidize her own family, never even caring about my health. Even her family, unable to endure the hardships after their own bankruptcy, constantly demanded things from me until it became an entitled habit. A wave of horror washed over Jiang Ting Rui as her brother's words suddenly echoed in her mind. As long as you ask brother-in-law for money, he'll work himself to death to earn it. At this moment, those words felt like a thorn stabbing deep in her heart. She rushed violently into the darkened rental house, only to find no trace of her daughter or husband inside. Her heart plummeted. With trembling hands, she flicked on the light. The room was utterly silent. The door to her husband and daughter's room was slightly ajar, but she lacked the courage to step inside. She was terrified the guard was right. Terrified that pushing the door open would reveal nothing but an empty room. She tried calling her daughter's name a few times, but the familiar childlike response never came. At that moment, she finally realized they had truly left. She sat stunned on the cold floor, tears spilling uncontrollably from her eyes. Just then, her phone vibrated. Her heart leaped, thinking I was calling back. She hastily picked it up, only to see the caller ID was her brother. "Sis, what's up with her husband? Usually, when I text him for money, he sends it within a day. Why is it so slow this time? Tell him to pick up more jobs." Jiang Ting Rui remained silent, unsure how to explain the current situation. On the other end, her mother chimed in, saying marrying her was the luckiest thing that ever happened to him. He should be eternally grateful. "My mahjong money is almost gone. Tell him to send the funds quickly." The clatter of mahjong tiles could be heard from her mother's side. Yet her vicious remarks about me didn't cease. "Working 10 jobs a day really brings in the money, huh? Sending us huge sums every time, though it's still a bit short for our family. If he can't cough it up, just make him work more jobs. It's not my money anyway. I don't care if I win or lose." Listening to these words, Jiang Ting Rui felt a sharp pain in her heart. Only now did she realize that I worked so many jobs, yet our daughter still wasn't properly fed or clothed, all because of these endless demands. And she herself had never paid attention to any of it, content only to immerse herself in a facade of maternal warmth with Tong Tong. Lost in false tenderness, unwilling to hear her family slander me any further, she hastily hung up the phone. She finally understood she wasn't just an accomplice condoning her family's behavior. She was the one who had hurt me and our daughter the most. As the full weight of the decade-long exploitation she and her family had inflicted upon me and my daughter dawned on her, she couldn't stop trembling. They had really left, driven away by her own indifferent attitude. She picked up the divorce agreement from the table, watching my firm signature until the sky began to lighten. Her phone vibrated again. Jiang Ting Rui answered with a vacant gaze, remaining silent for a long time. From the other end, Jiang Shuren's unconcealed joy came through. "Ting Rui, Tong Tong rearranged the ornaments you bought him. He wants you to come over and see how it looks." A wave of irritation washed over Jiang Ting Rui and she replied coldly, "I don't want to." Jiang Shuren instantly sensed something was amiss and prompted Tong Tong to speak. "Godmother, do you not like Tong Tong anymore?" Tong Tong, hearing no reply from the other end, began to sob. Jiang Ting Rui suddenly found Tong Tong tiresome. Why couldn't he be well behaved like our daughter? She had already spent far too much time on this father and son, yet why were they still not satisfied? When she bought Tong Tong and Jiang Shuren designer clothes, she would always remember the chapped faces and hands of me and our daughter from the cold. When she ordered Tong Tong a custom-made cake, she would always remember that our daughter had never even had a single bite of her own birthday cake. She felt increasingly sorry for the father and daughter. But by the time she realized all this, it was too late. She had already lost me and our daughter. A voice inside told her she didn't love Jiang Shuren. It was merely because she had never truly had him. Her feelings for Jiang Shuren were just an obsession, a fixation from the past she wanted to fulfill. The ones she truly loved were me, who had shared hardships with her daily, and our daughter, who waited for her to come home every day. Seeing her family members still cluelessly sending messages urging me to transfer money, Jiang Ting Rui felt a surge of fury. She rushed home, panting, demanding her family find the records of my remittances. Her mother, busy playing mahjong, waved her hand dismissively, telling her brother to show her. Her brother pulled out the transfer records. Each transfer amount was just numerous small sums of 1 or 200 yuan. Yet, perplexingly, every single transfer from me included amounts down to the cents. Jiang Tingray could no longer hold back. Tears burst from her eyes. She wasn't crying for herself, but felt heartbroken for me. She couldn't imagine how much humiliation I must have endured each time I made a transfer, having to work odd jobs nonstop under such circumstances just to provide pocket money for her family. Looking at her mother who treated money carelessly at the mahjong table and her brother frantically topping up game credits, she completely broke down. "Stop playing," she roared. She smashed her brother's phone and overturned her mother's mahjong table. Then she stormed out the door and found the boss who had previously introduced odd jobs to me. The boss looked at her puzzled, assuming she was another wealthy madam looking for cheap labor. Before he could speak, he heard Jang Tingrui asking about me. "Has that man come looking for work again?" Hearing this, the boss's expression darkened. A while ago, that wealthy man came again, told him to wash his car, and gave him a hard time. Seeing the boss hesitate, Jang Tingrui's heart tightened. She immediately pulled out a wad of cash and handed it to him. How did he give him a hard time? Seeing her sincerity, the boss waved his hand, refusing the money, and sighed. "He found provocative items in my car and got into a big fight with that wealthy man. That gentleman demanded I pay hundreds of thousands in compensation." Her mind buzzed as if struck by lightning. She suddenly remembered seeing ointment for bruises and sprains at home once, but she hadn't paid any attention at the time. She abruptly stood up and rushed home. Just as she reached her doorstep, a delivery man was standing there. "Are you his family? Please sign for this package." Without waiting for a reply, he turned and left. Jang Tingrui, exhausted in body and mind, ignored the package and began frantically searching the house for evidence of my injuries. However, everything related to me had been taken away. She collapsed onto the floor, sobbing helplessly, reflecting on how many details she had overlooked. Just then, her foot accidentally bumped the delivery box. Winter clothes printed with her daughter's name spilled out. Jang Tingrui was instantly bewildered and emptied the box's contents. Inside, there was also a note. It read, "This is a gift from all the classmates for our daughter. It's so cold in winter. Please don't let her wear the summer uniform anymore. If you have any difficulties, please let us know anytime." She thought of how our daughter wore her summer uniform to kindergarten every day, and how others might have mocked her. Jang Tingrui felt a sting in her nose. My God, how could she not even realize her daughter didn't have a winter uniform solely because of her own obsessions? She had failed the family who truly loved and cherished her. She held her daughter's clothes tightly, sobbing bitterly. But our daughter would never wipe away her tears for her again. My daughter and I settled down in a tourist city. The money I earn here allows us to rent a very nice house. Our daughter has her own balcony, her own wardrobe. I bought her many clothes. Spring, summer, autumn, winter, all provided for. I also bought her several of the little dresses she likes. I still have the habit of taking on many jobs a day, so I can't always be with her, but I enrolled her in an after-school meal program. When she comes home, she often tells me the food there is delicious, and the other children are very nice. Apart from the first month when she was still adjusting, she quickly blended in with the neighborhood kids. Life in a tourist city isn't as fast-paced as in a big city. We learned to slow down, too. On weekends, I often take her out sketching, sightseeing. While strolling through the night market, she saw a pitiful little hamster, her eyes filled with sympathy. I knew what she was thinking and bought it for her without a second thought. The initially skinny hamster has become quite plump under her care. Many children often come to play with our daughter because of the hamster, but they never ask about her mother. It seems that without Jang Tingrui, our lives are more comfortable and peaceful. I urge the lawyer to get Jang Tingrui to sign the divorce papers as soon as possible. I want nothing more to do with her. As for how privileged or capable she is, that has long been irrelevant to my daughter and me. Daddy, please don't work so many odd jobs anymore. I don't need that much money. I just want you to spend more time with me. Our daughter's words were a complete wake-up call. Yes, no one is pressing me for money anymore. I no longer need to slave away for someone else's greed. I just need to focus on being with my daughter. Jang Tingrui had spent the past few days lost in a haze, as if her soul had departed. Her mother and brother still hadn't realized I was gone, constantly pressing her to have me send money. Impatiently, she transferred several sums to them in my name. Then each day she shut herself away in the rented room where we had once lived until one day a man pushed open the door. Jang Tingrui thought I had returned and excitedly threw herself into his arms. Seeing her like this, Jang Shuran assumed she had forgiven him. He quickly signaled to Tong Tong to give her the cake she liked. Just as Tong Tong was about to speak, Jang Tingrui realized the man before her wasn't me. Because I never wore cologne, I only ever carried the faint scent of soap. She forcefully pushed Jang Shuran away. Jang Shuran looked bewildered. Tingrui, why did you push me away? Tong Tong and I came to see you. Jang Ting Rui's eyes were vacant as she shook her head repeatedly. Just go, both of you. I don't want to see you. Tong Tong offered her the cake. Godmother, I brought you your favorite cake. Seeing the cake, Jang Ting Rui instantly broke down. That was the cake our daughter had always wanted but never received. Losing control, she knocked the cake to the floor. The beautiful dessert instantly became a messy heap. I don't want it. Take it away. Both of you just go. She pointed at the door hysterically, trying to drive Shuran and Tong away. Jang Shuran suddenly raised his voice, his tone laced with disdain. Isn't he just some pathetic clown? So I roughed him up a bit, but do you really need to react like this? Before he could finish, Jang Ting Rui's hand struck his face hard. Her voice trembled with anger and pain. Just rough him up a bit? You used his job to humiliate him and then you beat him up. Jang Shuran pointed indignantly at his own face. He hit me too, Ting Ruer. Look at my face. Jang Ting Rui glanced at the faint scratches on his face, but the image that flooded her mind was of the severe injuries on my face. Just then, Tong Tong, frightened by their argument, burst into tears. But Jang Ting Rui only felt irritation. She threw on her coat and rushed out the door. The cold night wind blew against her face, but couldn't dispel her chaotic thoughts. Suddenly, someone called her, telling her they had found our whereabouts. She immediately pulled herself together, frantically booked a plane ticket, and rushed to the city where we were. Our daughter had recently suggested I relax, taking me and the little hamster out for a picnic. I took her to the bakery and let her pick out several small cakes in the style she liked. In front of all the other children, she declared boldly for the first time, "Help yourselves. If it's not enough, my daddy will buy me lots more cake." Seeing her confident demeanor now, I felt deeply gratified. The timidity and low self-esteem that once marked her face had vanished, replaced by an abundance of happiness and joy. It was at this moment that Jang Ting Rui appeared before us. She watched from afar as the daughter who was once timid now stood confident and bold. Yet somehow she couldn't bring herself to approach. She stood there like an outsider, utterly out of place amidst this happiness. Seeing her, I took the initiative and walked toward her. "Have you signed the divorce papers?" Hearing my words, Jang Ting Rui felt a sting in her nose and instantly burst into incoherent tears. "I'm sorry to you, and sorry to our daughter." I looked at her coldly. She certainly had wronged us, but I wouldn't accept her apology either. "I don't need your apology, nor do I have any designs on your assets. I only care about our daughter." Jang Ting Rui shook her head. "I can help you live a better life. Could we perhaps reconcile?" Before she could finish, I interrupted her. "No, this is non-negotiable. If you're unwilling to sign, then I'll proceed directly with legal action." Her eyes widened as she stared at me in disbelief, her voice unconsciously rising. "I already know I was wrong. You still want to divorce me? Our daughter can't be without her mother." I gave a cold laugh. A mother like that is useless anyway. While Jang Ting Ruer was on the plane, countless possibilities ran through her mind. She imagined herself lowering her head in apology, that I would soften, that I would give her another chance. The one thing she hadn't considered was that when she truly lowered her proud head and pleaded desperately, I remained utterly unmoved. Seeing my stern, impartial demeanor, she began to panic. "I'll be a good mother to our daughter from now on. I beg you, don't let this family fall apart." When I didn't respond, she knelt directly before me and continued her apologies. "I shouldn't have kept in touch with Jang Shuran behind your back. I shouldn't have treated our daughter differently, neglecting her wishes. And I especially shouldn't have let you work multiple jobs to subsidize my family. You can hit me, you can curse me, just don't take our daughter away." Her voice grew softer and softer until she was nearly choked with sobs. I thought hearing her confession might stir some leniency within me. But I was wrong. Instead, my heart was as still as water. If her future atonement alone could erase the pain my daughter and I endured, then we would truly be selling ourselves short. Our daughter, not far off, saw someone kneeling before me and ran over worriedly. "Daddy, is someone bullying you again?" Before she could finish, she recognized Jang Ting Rui. She instantly hid behind me, bewildered, unsure how to face her mother. Seeing the previously confident and lively child suddenly become timid and hesitant before her, Jang Ting Ruer felt a sharp pang in her heart. She realized she hadn't fulfilled the true responsibilities of a mother. Trembling, she reached out to our daughter, her voice pleading. "It's Mommy. You've gotten chubbier. Come let Mommy see." When our daughter didn't speak, she suddenly took a small cake from her bag. "Mommy bought you a cake. Although this one's a bit small, I'll take you to buy a big one later. Okay?" Our daughter looked to me for help. I shook my head. I gestured for her to tell her mother her own thoughts. Mommy, Daddy already bought me lots of cakes. I can't eat anymore. You don't need to waste money on me. Jiang Ting Rui scrambled to her feet, her tone urgent. It's okay. If you can't eat it now, Mommy will buy you more later. Mommy has money now. I could buy you anything you want. Our daughter gripped my hand tightly, her voice childish yet firm. But Mommy used to buy things for other children. I don't need Mommy now. If other children need a mommy, then Mommy should go find them. My daughter looked up, meeting my gaze, her previously sad face brightening with a sunny smile. Daddy can give me everything. I just want to be with Daddy. With that, she pulled me away. Watching her small yet determined back, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. It seemed I had raised her quite well on my own after all. From that day on, Jiang Ting Ruer settled down in the city. Every day she went to the after-school meal program to bring our daughter extra food. Everyone praised our daughter for having such a devoted mother. When our daughter took her hamster out to play with other children on weekends, she would help watch over it. To curry favor with our daughter, she bought a series of cages and treats for the hamster. I felt rather helpless about this. She was, after all, our daughter's biological mother. I couldn't just drive her away. But our daughter wasn't as warm towards her as before, remaining polite yet distant. I knew my daughter had been truly heartbroken back then. After all, for any child, having their birthday turned into a day of sorrow would be something hard to ever let go of. Jiang Ting Rui also knew the harm she had caused our daughter went far beyond just not buying her that cake. So, she tried hard to reconcile with our daughter. For any parent-child activities at kindergarten, she always rushed to participate before I could. However, this also gave me more time to earn money. I did some calculations. Since I stopped sending money to her family in the past year, the money I earned from odd jobs was enough to buy a villa in this small tourist city. I needed to work even harder to give our daughter an even better life with me. As time went by, their mother-daughter relationship couldn't be said to be the same as before. But our daughter wasn't as resistant towards her as she had been initially. I didn't want my daughter to grow up lacking a mother figure either. So, I turned a blind eye. But there was absolutely no way I would ever get back together with Jiang Ting Rui.